Carole, you've spent a long time researching and now publishing and then subsequently starting a nonprofit around how founders can build and maintain exceptional relationships in all aspects of their life. What are the core secrets you can share with entrepreneurs on how to achieve this?
Well, maybe the most important thing to remember is that relationships exist on a continuum. At one end of the continuum, we have contact and no connection or dysfunction. And at the other end of the continuum, we have something that my co author and I came to call exceptional based on our experience at the Stanford Business School teaching for decades. In the middle, though, what's important is as you move down the continuum, you have just plain old robust and strong and functional. So, at the very least, every leader needs to know how to move relationships down the continuum to that point. And then you can decide whether there's some that you want to take to exceptional. We're not advocating you try to make every one of your relationships exceptional. That's exhausting and impractical.
Right.
But you should at least learn how to get every relationship in your life to where it's functional, robust, and strong. And what we know from all those years teaching at Stanford, at the business school, is that when you acquire a number of skills and competencies, you are able to actually move down that, you have choice and you're able to move down that continuum. So, in my view, what's the most important thing for founders and CEOs, and this is what I now teach in our Leaders in Tech program that I left Stanford and started this nonprofit, is is how to move down that continuum.
So, Carole, one of the biggest challenges people face is how to take a relationship from that starting point to being something truly functional and mutually beneficial. How do you put parameters around that and break that down for founders?
Yes. So it turns out that one of the things that characterizes a relationship as it moves in that direction is that I feel a little better known by you. I don't have to spin my image quite as much. You feel a little better known by me. We trust each other. Doesn't mean we tell each other everything, but we trust each other to allow ourselves to be better known. We are honest with each other. We actually deal with conflict productively as opposed to avoid it or sweep it under the rug. And we're both committed to each other's learning and growth. And when you have those six components, to the extent that you have them all and really deeply, you're at exceptional. But to the extent you have all of them represented to some extent, you've already moved to robust and functional. And I'll tell you, we hear back from students decades later. This is Stanford students. Now I'm hearing back from my CEO founders. Lit has only been around for 4 years. With as much like I just raised my latest round, and I owe it all to what I learned from you. As we do, pretty sure what I learned from you just saved my marriage.
That's powerful, right? When you think about how it's affecting people, not just in their professional lives, but in their personal lives as well. You touched on something really interesting there with respect to authenticity, right? And this is
Yes,
where people fall back into, entrepreneurs often fall back into their pitch mode and they're not
yes,
coming across with authenticity. So what advice
that's
can you
right.
give and how somebody can really achieve that authentic connection?
So, what a lot of people don't realize is that authenticity is not an on off switch. You do have to be a little vulnerable. Otherwise, you really can't get real enough to be seen as authentic. But you don't have to like bleh, everything. So, we have a concept called appropriate authenticity, which is to disclose. Disclosure is a key element to building relationships. But disclosure doesn't mean telling everything. In fact, in our book, we talk about something called a 15% rule, which is step a little bit, 15% outside your comfort zone, a little bit outside your comfort zone. And then you'll test it. Maybe the other person will reciprocate. Now your comfort zone gets a little bit more, gets bigger, and then you can go from there. So yes, authenticity is important, but consider the setting, consider the person, consider the relationship, and think about incremental small steps instead of all on off.
And you've spent a lot of time mentoring and advising some of the greatest entrepreneurs coming out of Y Combinator. And what would you say are the biggest strengths you've identified in some of them, and then some of the weaknesses that you've been able to identify and help resolve?
Often our greatest strengths become our weaknesses. And so, one of the things that happens when you're really passionate is you don't stop to consider that the other person isn't with you.
Right, right. This
So,
happens.
so that you're so enthusiastic about what you're talking about, you haven't realized that the other person stopped listening a while ago. So that what they most gain in the program in Leaders in Tech, what the students gained at Stanford, was learning a lot more about how to listen better, how to be more curious instead of always being in advocacy mode, how to allow for the possibility that there are more than one way to look at a situation, how to actually invest in a relationship. Turns out, funny thing, people do business with people. They don't do business with ideas, machines, or products, or plans, or money. They actually do business with people. So until you get the people part right, you're going to be somewhat limited in how far you're going to get.